day class. So for today's online podcast discussion, we will discuss Module 1 History of Letters and Lettering Styles. So our alphabet of 26 letters is the result of centuries of changes in writing. Many of our letter shapes in fact originated with Egyptian hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics writing is a script and not a language because it was a written work of ancient Egyptian with composed of characters and symbols. Therefore, hieroglyphics are an original form of writing out of which all other forms have evolved. So the first hieroglyphics were used mainly by the priests and to record important events like wars or stories about their many goals and pharaohs, and were usually used to decorate temples and tombs. So it is believed that the ancient Egyptian first began developing the hieroglyphic system of writing about 3000 BC. So the letter A, for example, was pictured as an ox in hieroglyphics. So the chart below shows how some of the letter shapes developed from hieroglyphics into the modern forms. So the alphabet listed on this chart are the ones of the greatest historical significance. So during the 18th century BCE, the ancient Greeks formed their own alphabet primarily on the Phoenician alphabet. Since the Greeks had little use for consonant letters, so the aleph was used to denote the vowel letter A or the vowel A, which was renamed alpha. So as you can see here, we have the development of letters from the Semitic. We have the ox head, the alpha ox, aleph, and alpha of the Greek, and then it turns into a modern letter A that we have today. So for the evolution of ancient letter B, the first house pictogram has an open door, as you can see in our image. The second only represents 4 walls, no way to go in or go out. On the third pictogram, a door reappears but leads to a wall. So the fourth and Greek one squarely represents a very spiky, inaccessible property with 2 triangular rooms, as you can see, probably because it's Queen's bee house and she doesn't want to be disturbed while recording the beta version of her new album, which is a translation in Greek alphabet, and until finally develops into a modern Roman letter B. Next, we have the evolution of letter G. So when you throw a boomerang, you can see it flying like a beautiful fuchsia gamma, nocturnal butterfly instead, and drawing loops and arcs of a circle in the sky. If you look attentively, you will recognize C and G. So in these boomerang trajectories, so be careful not to be too contemplative, though, even if it has been thrown from 3200 BC, a boomerang can always come back and hurt you. So the letter G was introduced in the Old Latin period as a variant of C, as you can see in our image. A slight modification in the form of letter C was made in order to differentiate in the writing. So as you can see here, the boomerang drawing or the boomerang symbol is the Semitic, and the Phoenician develops it into gamblo, throwing stick, the gammel, and the Greek develops it into gamma, as well as the modification of letter C to G was introduced in the Old Latin and the Old Roman and Modern Roman alphabet that we have today. Next, we have for the evolution of letter D. So a door can become a triangle, which can become a letter. For doors can light your fire. So as you can see here in our image, the letter D corresponds to Semitic Dalet and Greek Delta. The form is, though it thought to derive from an early pictograph, possibly Egyptian, indicating the folding door of a tent. Next, we have for the evolution of letter E. The man is happy he will give birth to a new letter. Not just a simple letter, but an epsilon, a simple E. There is not much to say. The loves E, and E loves him too. So, as you can see in our image, E is the fifth letter of the alphabet, derived from a Semitic consonant that represented a sound similar to the English H. Greek epsilon and Latin E, the original Semitic character, may have derived from an earlier pictograph representing a lattice window or a fence. So as you can see here, it develops into different characters or symbols. We have the first one, the man shouting, the hollow jubilation, the he, and the Greek representation, which is the epsilon, and will develop into a modern letter E that we have today. Next, for the evolution of FYU-VW. So the hook pictogram is almost the origin of font U, or at least the origin of the letters F and Y. Three other Latin letters come from the Greek epsilon, UV, and W. And one movie with Dustin Hoffman arises from the Semitic WAW. Next, for the evolution of letter Z. So Z is a sharp letter. In the schematic alphabet, it is represented by an arrow. So in the Phoenician alphabet, it turns 90 degrees to be a weapon and looks more like a dagger handle. So in the Latin alphabet, it looks like it has been drawn by a sword or a Don Diego de la Vega's rapier. So the letter Z was part of the earliest form of the Latin alphabet, adapted from Etruscan because the sound Z in the Latin changed to R by Rotacism in the 5th century BC. Z was dropped and its place given to the new letter G. So we have the representations of the development of letter Z. As you can see in our first representation, we have the arrow. It turns into sign of weapon, the cyan, the zeta, and now we have the modern letter C, derived from Old and New Roman alphabet letters. Zeta is the representation of the Greek symbol. For the evolution of letter I, for the arm to raise, the culture's weight to carry, a vertical stroke, letter to become, patience you must have, my young Padawan Yoda. So the Roman letter I was so-called Yoda in 1000 BC. It meant hand and arm. The Greeks called it Lota and made it vertical. In its evolution, it turned into a straight line around 700 BC. Next, for the evolution of letter H. By tying threads, interlacing ropes, knitting wool, we can create a lot of forms and very different structures. For example, marine knots, stitches, a Christmas pullover as you can see in our image, with the snowman, and of course the letter H. So these are the representation of how letter H develops. We have the first image here. We have the twisted rope and turns into height to thread, the heat, the eta presentations of the Greek, and now it turns into the modern letter H that we have today. Next, for the evolution of letter K. In a cupped hand, you can keep things like a key, a karaoke mic, a little knife. So for the history of the letter K comes from the Greek letter K, kappa, which was taken from the Semitic kapt, the symbol for an open hand. Now for the evolution of letter L. So we draw a staff, a walking stick, with the handle on the left. Turn your drawing in a symmetrical and horizontal way. You obtain the reflection of the first drawing. Turn your second drawing in a symmetrical and vertical way. Do not confuse the Greek letter lambda with talambada. So the 12th letter of the Roman alphabet, the letter L, are used for English. It originated in the Phoenician letter lame, adapted into Greek as lambda, which became the Roman letter L that we have today. Next, for the evolution of our letter M. So under the Egyptian sky, the water luxuriates in soft and regular waves. We dive in to the Aegean Sea. How pleasant it is to be carried by the tides. So the letter M is derived from the Phoenician mem via the Greek mu. Semitic mem is most likely derived from a Proto-Sinaitic Bronze Age adaptation of the water ideogram in Egyptian writing. So as you can see here, the first representation of the development of our letter M. It looks like a water. It throws the waves, the Mayan water. Next we have the meme and the mu representation of the Greek alphabet, and it turns into our modern letter M, derived from the old and new Roman alphabet letters. Next, for the evolution of letter N. So great mnemonic way to remember the origin of the letter N. During the snake is naked. In French, naked it is translated into nu, unless the adjective refers to a female nu, or a group of males, nus, or a group of females, nus. The snake is then nu, like the Greek letter, and the Latin letter N. Cool trick, isn't it? So for the letter N, 14th letter of the alphabet, the form evolved from early inscriptions from Thera and Corinth to a 3-stroke character in the Ionic alphabet of Abu Simbel. The 4-stroke Etruscan character resembled the Latin M, while the Latin form was largely indistinguishable from the modern N. So as you can see here, for first image of the development of our letter N, we have a drawing or the image of a snake. It turns into a Nasu snake in noon, and a nu, that is the translation in Greek alphabet, and it turns or evolved into Old and New Roman alphabet that we have today, the modern letter N. Next, for the evolution of letter X. So as you can see here, in the development or evolution of our letter X, the first symbol that we have is a fish. Then it evolves into Samku fish. Then it turns into Samic, and the G representation of the Greek letters. And it turns into the Old and New Roman alphabet letters that we have today, the modern letter X. Next, for the evolution of letter O. Round as a pupil and as the two eyes looking at the moon. Then we have an O. So the letter O first appears in the ancient Semitic languages of about 1000 BC as the fricative consonant in I. Sometime later, the Greeks morphed it into a vowel, and from there it slid seamlessly into the Roman alphabet. So as you can see here, for the evolution of our letter O, the first image that we have is an I. Then it turns into Ainu I. Then we have the Ayan and the Omicron, the Greek representation, and it turns into the Old and New Roman alphabet. We have the modern letter U. Next, for the evolution of letter P. Yesterday in Kemetic alphabet, P was an open mouth, as you can see in our image. Today in Smiley alphabet, P is a mouth which sticks its tongue out. The Greek letter pi represents, since the mid-18th century, a mathematical consonant number of which decimal approximation that is equal to 3.14, 15, 92, 65, and so on. It is hard to pronounce, especially when an open and smiling face. So the 16th letter of the Roman alphabet as used for English, the letter P, is originated in the Phoenician symbol P, which was adopted by the Greeks as the pi, an earlier form of which the Romans adopted as P. So as you can see here, the first representation of our letter P is an image of a mouth. Then it turns into an open mouth, or the Q mouth. Then it evolves into P, then into a pi, which is a Greek representation of ancient letter P. So a pi is used as a mathematical constant number that is equivalent to 3.1416. Then it develops into our Old and New Roman alphabet, the modern letter P that we have today. Next, for the evolution of letter R. For the centuries, the head believed its best profile was the left one, while it's the right that gives it the air R of being prettier. So the letter R came from the Phoenician letter Rush. The word Rush means head, and the letter resembles a neck and head. When the letter entered the Greek alphabet, the Greeks turned the letter around and added the short leg to the side. They called this letter Rho. So as you can see here, the first representation of our letter O is just a head of a man. Then it turns into a raso head, then develops into a ris, and we have the Greek representation, which pronounced as Ra, and it turns into the Old and New Roman alphabet that we have today, the letter R. Next, for the evolution of letter S. So dreaming about teeth can be a symbol of prostration or vitality. But don't worry, this is not Sigmund's interpretation or a stigmatization. So the letter S originated most likely as a pectogram of a tooth and represented the phoneme via the acroponic principle. The ancient Greek did not have a phoneme, so the derived Greek letter sigma came to represent the voiceless sibilant S. So as you can see here, we have the development of our letter S. So we have a toast. Next we have turns into a sinus tooth, and a sin is just like a W, and it turns into the Greek symbol sigma, and it develops into an Old and New Roman alphabet that we have today, the letter S. Next, for the evolution of letter T. A cross in the right place, a Semitic plus sign, more Phoenician cross, a Greek symbol for life, and our resurrection equals to the Latin letter T. So the letter T was derived from the Semitic letters tau via the Greek letter tau in English. It is most commonly used to represent the voiceless, plosive sound. It is also denotes in the International Phonetic Alphabet. So as you can see here, the first symbol in Semitic form is an image of a check mark. Then to the Kemetic, we have the tau mark, turns into a tau and develops into a tau, which is a translation in Greek alphabet. Then it evolves or develops into our Old and New Roman alphabet that we have today, the modern letter T. So as you can see from the chart below, our current alphabet is essentially Roman. That is why the original version of the alphabet letters was used by the Romans for the Latin language. It is derived from and very similar to Greek alphabet. For the calligrapher or to the person who practice writing, the most interesting periods in history are from the Roman period through the Renaissance. So it was during this time that the pen-lettered alphabets that we study and use today were developed. The major alphabets from the time span in chronological order. So the Phoenician run with the idea developing the world's first fully formed alphabet. The Greeks started to use an alphabetic system of their own around the 8th century BC, adding vowels and the letter X. So let's proceed to the history of the alphabet, or the history of letters. The history of the alphabet started in ancient Egypt. By 2700 BCE, Egyptian writing had a set of some 22 hieroglyphics to represent syllables that begin with a single consonant of their language, plus a vowel or no vowel, to be supplied by the native's speaker. So these glyphs were used as a pronunciation guides for logograms, or a sign or character representing a word or phrase, to write grammatical inflections and later to transcribe loan words and foreign names. So the original alphabet was developed by Semitic people living in or near the Egypt. They based it on the idea developed by the Egyptians, but used their own specific symbols. It was quickly adopted by their neighbors and relatives to the east and north, the Canaanites, the Hebrews, and the Phoenicians. Phoenician was the first major phonemic script, in contrast to two other widely used writing systems at the time, cuneiform and Egyptian hieroglyphics. It contained only about 24 distinct letters, making it a script simple enough for common traders to learn. So the Phoenicians spread their alphabet through their vast trading network that stretched throughout the entire Mediterranean region. The Greeks adopted it, and by the 8th century BCE had added vowels. So aside from this, Phoenicians are successful traders. They were known for their speed and their ability to maneuver harsh seas. In fact, the ancient Egyptians called boats that could travel in the deep seas Byblos boats. After the Phoenician city-state, Phoenician boats had room for many rowers and were built to sail long distances. So another advantage of Phoenician was that it could be used to write down different languages, since it recorded words phonemically, as you can see in our image. Our 28-letter alphabet developed from continuous changes in writing. One of the earliest systems of writing was the hieroglyphics, which was the ancient Egyptians' way of communication that used pictures or symbols. The system was later developed into a cursive hieroglyphics that was used in religious scriptures. Phoenicians adopted and developed this writing into a 22-letter alphabet, which was later adopted by the Greeks.